Most men, they don't lose the girl of their dreams because she walked away. They lose her long before that moment. They lose her in their unconscious living, in their unrefined emotions, in their lack of inner clarity. You see, longing for a woman without first discovering who you are is like planting a seed in barren soil and praying for a tree. They come with flowers, with poems, with promises, but not with presence, not with depth, not with awareness. A man can look perfect from the outside, but if within him there is confusion, insecurity, and fear masquerading as love, then even the most divine woman will begin to wither in his company. They don't understand that love is not something you get from someone. Love is something that awakens when you are still, clear, alive, and full within yourself. If your soul is starving, no woman can feed it. Most men chase, they try to possess, they say, "She's mine." But remember, what you try to own, you destroy, and what you respect, you invite. The girl of your dreams doesn't want a boy trapped in desire. She wants a man anchored in being, but many men, they never sit with their pain, they never heal their wounds. They want her to be their medicine, their escape, their rescue. But a woman is not a healer of broken men, she is a mirror. And if you cannot face what she reflects, you will blame her light for revealing your shadows. True masculinity is not domination, it is stillness, it is presence, it is the power to hold space without gripping it. So yes, most guys lose the girl of their dreams, not because she wasn't meant for them, but because they weren't ready to be the man she never had to question. Most men speak of love, of desire, of wanting the girl of their dreams. But desire without depth is like a flame on dry leaves. It burns bright for a moment and dies without a trace. They see her beauty, her laughter, her presence, and something stirs within them. But what they don't realize is that what stirs them is not love. It is longing rooted in incompleteness. When you desire someone without truly knowing yourself, without understanding the depths of your own being, that desire becomes shallow. It is not sacred, it is restless, it seeks to take, not to share. And anything that comes from that space of emptiness will eventually turn into neediness, jealousy, fear. You want her, but you haven't yet found yourself. You admire her, but you haven't cultivated anything within worth admiring. So what will you give her? What will you offer beyond words, beyond gifts, beyond temporary excitement? Depth means that even in silence your presence speaks. Depth means your love is not a performance. It is a fragrance that arises from your being. If she is the ocean, you cannot approach her as a puddle. You must become vast enough to hold her storms, her stillness, her mystery, but most never go inward. They try to possess beauty without embodying truth. They are drawn to her light without tending to their own darkness, and so they lose her, not because she wasn't meant for them, but because they never grew deep enough to meet her where she truly is. Shallow desire can never touch a soul. It only touches skin, and the girl of your dreams, she is not skin, she is spirit, she is depth, and only depth can hold her. Love, in its truest form, is not born from insecurity, yet most men mistake their inner restlessness for affection. What they call love is often just a cry for emotional safety, a fear of being alone, a need to be seen. And in that desperation, they try to hold on to someone, not because they deeply understand her, but because they fear losing the image of what she represents. When insecurity wears the mask of love, it clings. It questions constantly, "Do you still love me? Where were you? Who were you with?" Not out of curiosity, but out of fear. And fear, even when it hides behind flowers and compliments, eventually suffocates the space where love could have grown. You see, love is not about needing the other. It is about being whole enough within yourself that you can celebrate someone else's freedom, not be threatened by it. But most men approach love as a refuge, a place to hide from their inner chaos. They lean too heavily on her presence to soothe their absence of self. They say they can't live without her, not realizing that this very statement is the seed of destruction. Because when love is built on dependency, it becomes fragile. Every little distance feels like abandonment, every silence feels like betrayal, and in trying to protect the relationship, they end up breaking it with their fear. A woman may come to you with her heart open, but if all she finds is your anxiety, your unhealed wounds, your silent panic, she will slowly close, not because she stopped loving, but because love cannot survive where fear rules. To truly love is not to bind but to liberate, not to demand but to offer. Insecurity seeks control, love seeks connection. And unless a man finds peace within himself, he will always confuse one for the other, and in doing so, he will lose what he thought he couldn't live without. Most men spend their energy chasing the girl of their dreams instead of becoming the man who naturally attracts her presence. They run, they perform, they impress, but they rarely transform. In the madness of pursuit, they forget that the goal is not to catch her, it is to grow into someone who no longer needs to chase. Chasing comes from a sense of lack. It screams, I am not enough yet, but if I have her, maybe I will be. But becoming is different. Becoming is silent, it is inward, it doesn't beg for attention, it radiates strength. And the irony is, when you stop chasing and start becoming, the very thing you were running after begins to notice your stillness. But this path demands patience. It demands you confront your own fears, insecurities, and childish needs. It asks you to mature, to take responsibility for your own state of being. Because until you rise to the level of the love you seek, you will always feel like you're falling short, even when you get what you want. You cannot impress a conscious woman with effort alone. She feels your energy before you speak. She sees whether you're grounded or just pretending, and if she senses that you're more interested in possessing her than in mastering yourself, she will pull away, not out of pride, but out of clarity. You see, true love doesn't come to the one who hunts, it comes to the one who becomes, who sharpens his mind, calms his heart, deepens his awareness, and carries himself not as a beggar of affection, but as a giver of peace. So yes, most men lose the girl of their dreams, not because she was too far ahead, but because they never stopped running long enough to rise and meet her at the level where love truly begins. Most men put all their energy into impressing her, saying the right words, wearing the right clothes, pretending to be what they think she desires. But rarely do they stop to ask a far more important question: have I impressed my own soul? They memorize lines from love songs, study her preferences, learn what makes her smile, but remain strangers to their own inner world. They ignore the work that matters most, becoming clear, centered, and emotionally balanced within themselves. So what happens? They walk into relationships as incomplete beings, hoping the woman will fill the gaps they've refused to confront. They expect her to soothe their chaos, validate their worth, and carry their emotional baggage. But no one can do that for you. Even the most loving woman cannot heal the parts of you you're unwilling to face. When you enter love without self-awareness, you carry confusion, you mistake emotional highs for connection, you seek constant reassurance, not knowing that what you truly need is stillness, not someone to calm you, but the ability to calm yourself. And this lack of inner work shows. It shows in how quickly they become jealous, how easily they get offended, how deeply they crave control. Because they have not yet learned to hold themselves, impressing her may win moments, but becoming aligned within wins lifetimes. A woman may be drawn to your charm, but she stays for your depth, your presence, your ability to stay calm when storms rise. So the question is not, how do I win her? The question is, am I someone who brings peace or someone who brings chaos? Because love doesn't thrive in noise. It blossoms in the presence of a soul who has done the quiet work no one sees, but everyone feels. There is a quiet strength in true masculinity, but most men today have forgotten it. They mistake loudness for confidence, control for leadership, and indifference for peace. And because they haven't awakened their deeper masculine essence, they show up in love with force or with fear, never with fullness. The girl of your dreams does not want to be dominated, nor does she want to mother you. She is not looking for a boy who hides behind silence, nor a man who speaks only to impress. She seeks presence, raw, rooted, unwavering. But for that, a man must first awaken to what it means to be. Unawakened masculinity either tries to overpower or withdraws completely. It either clings too tightly or disappears when things get intense. This imbalance is not strength, it is confusion, and no woman can feel safe, seen, or loved in the presence of a man who hasn't found himself. Real masculinity is not about how much you can lift, how much money you earn, or how loud your voice is. It's about how still you can remain in the face of chaos. It's about how deeply you listen when she doesn't have the words. It's about holding space, not taking up space. But this kind of strength doesn't come from the gym. It doesn't come from books. It comes from sitting with your own wounds without letting them bleed on others. It comes from understanding your own fire, so you don't burn what you're meant to warm. Most men lose the girl of their dreams not because they weren't attractive or ambitious, but because they never learned how to be stable, not emotionally, not mentally, not spiritually. And a woman who is growing will not stay where the ground beneath her feet keeps shaking. So before asking for her loyalty, her heart, her love, ask yourself, have I become a man who can hold it? Most men do not fall in love with a woman, they fall in love with the idea of her. They become attached not to who she truly is, but to how she makes them feel, to the image they've built in their minds. And when reality doesn't match the fantasy, they blame her, not their own illusion. Attachment is not love, it is possessiveness wrapped in emotion. It says, you are mine, not I see you. It demands, it clings, it fears, it watches love like a hawk, always suspicious, always needing more. But love, real love, requires awareness, not ownership. When you are truly aware, you do not fall for the mask she wears in public. You see her pain, her doubts, her sacred mess, and you meet her there, with presence, not performance. You don't try to fix her or mold her into your comfort zone, you allow her to be as she is, but that level of awareness is rare because it requires you to also be aware of yourself, your own projections, your expectations, your emotional habits. Without that self-awareness, you will think she changed when in fact it was your illusion that shattered. This is why most men cannot hold on to the girl of their dreams, because she was never truly seen to begin with. She was imagined, idolized, romanticized, but she was never understood. Love is not fantasy, it is truth, and the truth requires maturity. It demands that you face her not as a character in your story, but as a universe of her own. To do that, you must be empty of ego and full of presence. So the question is not, does she love me? The real question is, have I truly seen her beyond my need for her? Because until you see her clearly, you will always be loving a ghost, and ghosts don't stay. In the end, most men lose the girl of their dreams, not because she wasn't right for them, but because they were never truly ready for her. They sought to possess, to control, to fill the gaps within themselves with someone else's love, but true love is not built on need, it is built on the strength to stand tall, rooted in your own being, fully aware of yourself, and in turn, fully able to see the other. Love doesn't thrive in the shadows of insecurity or in the pursuit of illusions. It grows in the light of self-awareness, in the stillness of a soul that knows its own worth. It flourishes when both partners come not to take, but to share, not to possess, but to respect. So, if you find yourself losing what you desire most, stop and ask yourself, have I become the person worthy of what I seek? Am I rooted in my own depth, or am I merely chasing something to fill my emptiness? If you can answer truthfully and rise to that challenge, you may find that the girl of your dreams was never meant to be lost. She was waiting for you to find the man who could truly see her, and in doing so, understand that the greatest love story begins with you, and the relationship you have with yourself. True love doesn't come to the one who runs, it comes to the one who stands still, rooted in clarity, and ready to meet the other where they truly are. And in this meeting, love will not just be a dream, it will be reality.